Hey everybody, it's your brother Zen, and I'm bringing you another message of love from above. And I'm excited because this video, we're going to be talking about the Mercury Retrograde. And I know, the Mercury Retrograde tends to get a bad rap, everyone, you hear a lot where people are saying that it's terrible and it's frustrating and nothing goes right and don't do anything because it's going to end up going wrong. But that tends to happen when we don't understand the energy of the Mercury retrograde. And there are some helpful ways that we can use it. I kind of look at it like, you're trying to go into a store and it's one of the doors that you pull, but you're trying to push to go in and you're like, why is this not working? So if you work with the energy, things go more smoothly. You don't feel blocked and you don't feel, restricted. Annie Botticelli, who she's the author of this book here, Planetology, which I will put a link for her book down in the description box below, because I'm going to share some information from the book about Mercury retrograde, and she just has a great way of presenting it that makes so much sense. And she mentions kind of along the push-pull kind of situation that when you're like if you're trying to launch a boat out into the ocean, and if you don't, if you're not aware of the tides, when the tide's coming in, when it's coming in, when it's going out, if you try to push and launch your boat out when the tide's coming in, you're going to be fighting against the tide, trying to get out into the ocean. But if you plan your launch with the tides going out, it just goes smoothly, and it's much more easier to do that. So I just think it's really cool, and her whole thing on here is how to align with the natural rhythms of the universe. And so she talks about how to use the energy of the planets most effectively for our lives. So I highly recommend this. And if you get just the Kindle version, the ebook version, it's not very much at all. That's what I started off, and I read it and I was so impressed with it that I ordered a physical copy too, because I knew I was going to reference it a lot. So some helpful things to be aware of regarding the Mercury retrograde is that actually before and after the retrograde, there's what's called a shadow period, and that also influences us. So knowing about them can help us feel less like we're losing our minds. Sometimes we just don't know what's going on, and we just don't know why we're thinking or feeling a certain way. And so that helps. Now, Mercury is actually the closest planet to the sun. So its orbit, of course, around the sun is much smaller than us, so it circles the sun about 4 times faster than we do. So I'm going to put up a little display here because I created a little diagram just to help explain it, because it made it make more sense to me too. Is that, when you look at it like this running track, Mercury has the inner lane closest to the center, and we have like the third lane out. So we, of course, ultimately run a longer distance because we're further out. So Mercury laps us, gets around faster and actually laps us, like 3 to 4 times a year. It makes it seem like it's made it around the track and, coming up behind us. So the pre-shadow happens for a couple of weeks before the Mercury retrograde officially starts. And that's when Mercury, its speed seems to slow down because it's reaching that U-turn part of the track or orbit. So from our perspective on Earth, it looks like it's slowing down, but of course it really isn't. And we entered the pre-shadow of this Mercury retrograde that's starting on the 30th. We went into the pre-shadow period on January 14th. So if you look back and go, okay, from January 14th to January, 30th, did it feel like things were slowing down and we felt a little bit off? Then that's kind of, you'll understand how the pre-shadow period impacts you if you think about the last couple weeks, what you were feeling. And then we enter the infamous retrograde, where it appears that Mercury is going the opposite direction of us, because now it's running on the opposite side of the track, because it's gained so much distance ahead of us in orbit, it's actually made it to the other side. And let's not get angry with Mercury. Mercury can't help that it's so fast, so don't take it personal. And of course, the Mercury retrograde, like I said, is starting on January 30th, and it will run through February 21st. And during the retrograde, the way she explains it in her book, Annie Botticelli, in this planetology book, is, it can feel like we're standing in the median, on a busy road in the middle with cars whizzing by us on either side. So, of course, that can be disorienting and stressful, of course, if we're focusing on the outside and what's happening around us. But the retrograde period, what's cool about it is if we take the time to pull back and go inward, then we find an opportunity for a peaceful and productive time. And I like how she talks about the retrograde as being an in-breath before we breathe out again. So it's like the planets. So it's just taking a deep breath in, and then when we breathe out, that's when we're outside of the retrograde. Then breathing in is the the retrograde, and then breathing out is when the planets are direct. It just gives us an internal breath of fresh air before we exert and do things outside of ourselves. So we can take our time during a retrograde and still do things, just not push it like we normally do. Sometimes we're always, forcing things to get done and force things to be launched and pushed out to the world, or, whatever action we're wanting to do. So we don't really want to do that during the retrograde. We kind of just want to more go with the flow. And it's good to know that things that we start during a retrograde period with an intention of them being long-term, long-lasting things, they tend to wind up being shorter term, or notably different somehow than we had planned. So that's what's really cool. I love, and I keep on mentioning things she's mentioned in the book, because it's just, she just clearly shares things that make so much sense, that she actually has she puts all the, the retrogrades in her calendar, and then she plans her year around that, on when she's going to launch a book or a new web class or different things like that. She knows when she does those big things. But it's also good to know that during a retrograde, it can also be a time where we receive recognition and reward for our past actions. So cha-ching, during a retrograde, it might actually be a really celebratory, kind of event, because it's like, oh wow, things that I pushed outside of the retrograde are actually now coming in, and you're getting the benefits of those. So that's during the retrograde. And then as Mercury makes its way to the U-turn on the other end of the track, where it appears to be slowing down, going the opposite direction. That is in the post-shadow period. So it's coming around the bend, and that can feel like we're entering a busy highway, because now Mercury is coming around and catching up to where we're all headed the same direction again. So, we're getting things going again, and it's like going onto a really busy highway, and a space opens up in the traffic, and we get this burst of energy to, zoom, 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 and merge into the traffic and speed up, and then we're flowing again. We don't feel like we're standing still anymore. It just takes a moment, even like when you're at a traffic light, once it turns from red to green, it takes a moment to gain that momentum and start getting up to speed again. Now, the post-shadow period for this Mercury retrograde, of course, since the retrograde ends on February 21st, the post-shadow would be from February 21st through March 13th. So that is just some helpful information to give you an idea of what's going on and how the retrogrades work. And because there's a tendency for things to resurface from the past during the retrograde period, like unresolved things are asking for our attention. So for this Mercury retrograde period of January 30th to February 21st, I'm going to pull some cards and ask for clarification on what unresolved things are asking for our attention. So I'm going to record me shuffling and pulling the cards and see how many cards are coming out for the pick a card. And then I'll have a timestamps in the description box below on when you can jump to whichever ones you choose out of those cards. And hey, stick around until the end of the video as well, because I'm going to provide some of Annie's tips on how you can use the retrograde period for your biggest benefit. And I'll also share what the other Mercury retrograde periods are for 2021, because there's actually going to be 3 full retrogrades, which is normal, but there's actually the 4th one starts at the end of the year as well. So I'll share those at the end. Enjoy. Alrighty, welcome to the pick a card portion of the video today. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to be using an oracle deck that I'm working on with the creator, co-creating with them. And so I'm going to start off by one stack of the deck here talks about what emotional heat am I feeling? And so since we're asking, what is, calling out to us during this retrograde period to kind of revisit and look at and, what is there within our being that would be for our highest benefit to kind of review during this retrograde period. So what I'm going to do is shuffle the cards here and just see how many fall out and see how many pick a cards we have, and then I'll show you what the images are on the cards, and then you can pick which one resonates with you. And I'll put timestamps in the description box below for those. So, all right, creator, we just want to thank the creator, of course, for your unconditional love, and thank you for just caring enough about us to always be with us and to bring us messages for clarity, and not just leaving us wandering around, in a desert, and we just thank you for your guidance. And we thank all of your angels and our guides and our loved ones who have gone to the other side. And we just welcome all of you beings of unconditional love to help bring messages for us today. All right. So far there's 2. I think is that going to be it? I think there's going to be like 1 or 2 more, I feel. Oh, there we go. All right, so put that over there. And so your 4 choices are going to be, you can have the panic card. So if you feel like you have a tendency to panic or have panic attacks even, then that might be the one for you. Then you have Disgust, which, of course, we all have had this experience sometime in our life, depending on how old you are, So if this resonates with you, then you can choose that one. So this one will be this one will be number 1, this one will be number 2. And then you have Disappointment. That'll be number 3. And then number 4 is going to be the lovely Betrayal. That's a juicy one. Great emotion. I've had that. I'm sure a lot of us have. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just choose which one or ones resonate with you. You can listen to all 4 if you want, if they all resonate. Whatever you feel guided to listen to. Just go ahead and click on the timestamp below if you chose another one besides Panic, because I'm going to start with that one right now. All right, if you chose the Panic card, then this is the reading for you. And this card is so hilarious to me because it really feels like whenever we have any of our fears ignite, when that fight or flight kicks in, we feel that twinge in our heart. We do feel like, oh my God, I gotta do something. I feel like I'm going to die. And we do almost feel like we're on fire. And of course, where that comes from is something has triggered us, triggered our fear and put us into that fight or flight mode. And when that happens, all the blood rushes out of our brain and rushes into our body. Well, I guess not all of it, but a lot of it does. All the adrenaline starts to flow. Our heart starts to beat fast. Our mouth gets dry. Our muscles start to get tense because we're preparing for battle, or we're preparing to run like hell. So a panic attack is the extreme of that. So we do feel panic, and a panic attack is just when it feels overwhelming, and sometimes even find that your heart is beating out of your chest and you don't even know why, because an underlying fear has been ignited. What I love is that in all these cards, as you will see, there's a message here from the creator on how we can transform this fear into peace, joy, and unconditional love. And it says on here, of course, it says stop, breathe, and then rather than reacting, we can respond. And breathing is so important because what breathing, like taking deep breaths, does when we're feeling panicked is it flushes the adrenaline out of our system because it's being filled with oxygen. So when we take deep breaths and just hold it for a few seconds and then exhale for a few seconds and just start doing it longer and longer, where your inhale goes longer, you hold it for longer, you exhale longer, not to where you pass out, of course, but just where you're starting to feel calm. And you'll realize that when you're in panic mode, you can't think straight because your mind doesn't want you to think when it feels it's in danger, because, they always say, a giant saber-toothed tiger comes up to a caveman, and the caveman goes, should I run from this tiger or and you're dead because we were thinking instead of running or fighting, right? So our minds are designed when we're feeling threatened, whether it's by a real physical event or more these days emotionally threatened, and we have our emotional fears, emotional monsters, then we don't, think straight. So we don't make good decisions, and that explains a lot of the world in its present state, right? So when we come out of our panic and come out of our fear, by doing that, breathing is one of the great ways, or learning to meditate, different things like that, it helps the blood get back into our brain to where we can respond. Then in a place of calmness, we can also look back at our fears and see what is it that is triggering me in a calm way. You can't deal with what is at the root of my fears when you're in fear mode, because your brain just won't let you. It's like, quit thinking, we're acting, we're fighting, we're defending, we're running, we're freezing, all those things that the fight or flight mode does. So that is the beginning, that there. And then the second stack of the deck I'm working on is this one. It's called The Fears. And this just helps us understand more what is sparking my emotional fire. So what I will do with that is, since this is a minus 29, that goes down to a minus 11, which breaks down to a minus 2. I'm going to shuffle here, and unless a card comes flying out, really obviously, once I feel we're done shuffling, I'll take 2 from the bottom of the deck. And I'm going to move this over here. Since I'm right-handed, that's in my way. All right. Okay. That one made itself known, so we're going to use that one. And this is the Parent Trap. In the little book that's going to come with this, it talks about, it's also called making mama cry and making daddy mad, or sad. But so this is all about the Parent Trap. And so with this card coming out with this panic and fear, this has to do in relation to being like disappointing a parent, the stress and the pressure that you have on trying to make sure you're doing everything that you think you're supposed to, all those things that you feel like those would be things where you hear your parents' voices in your head of this is how you should do that, or I'm disappointed in you, disappointing dad and making mama cry. It could also be memories of things that are just eating at you inside because you felt like such a failure because you didn't live up to what they thought you should do. But what's wonderful, again, on the bottom here, the creator shows us an explanation here, and it talks about a ceremony of adulthood. And what this does in this is, of course, starts off here. Here's the original parent, and then it has a child, and the child grows up to have a child, who grows up to have a child, who grows up to have a child. And it's just about the whole concept of we're children raising children, raising children, raising children. So there's kind of two messages that come with this. One is that we don't know what kind of childhood our parents had. And so one of the things that I did to help me move through the emotions that I had inside me is I meditated, and my mother and my father came before me, and it was really amazing because they shrunk down into little children, kind of like the picture. They went, whoosh, but reverse order. They went down into little children, and I saw their parents come up behind them. And I kind of felt the emotions that my mom had and that my dad had with their experiences as children. And then I saw their parents shrink down into little children and their parents pop up behind them. And then I felt the emotions that, all of my grandparents had. And it just kept on going back and back, and I just saw it just flood, and all these it ends up being millions of people because it, exponentially grows because everyone has, a set of 4 grandparents, and that just explodes to where your family tree is half the world, right? But you start to realize everyone does the best they can with what information they have and what beliefs they had and how they believed about themselves. And it just allows you to really step out and go, you know what? It wasn't personal. They didn't wake up each morning going, I really just want to make their life miserable. I'm going to make them feel lonely. I want to impact their self-worth. They don't. They're just wanting to go, I want to do the best I can. And they always did. They always did the best they could on that day with what they had, right? The other thing that on here is, because it talks about the ceremony of adulthood, is that it's something that we've lost in kind of our society in a lot of the countries, because they used to have, ceremonies where, like, in a tribe, the men of the tribe would take the son out onto like a hunting excursion and get a tattoo, and they'd come back, and when he'd come back, he'd be coming back as a young man. Same with the women. They would take a female child when they were reaching, that certain age they determined. They would take her off for some sort of ritual and come back, and she would be considered a young woman. And not only would the entire tribe treat them differently, they would come back feeling different about themselves. And so we don't have that a lot in our current societies. And because of that, we never really kind of let that child character of ours go. We just become a bigger child, right? Again, that explains a lot what's going on in the world. I want what I want right now, instead of understanding more from a tribal point of view what's best for the tribe, right? All right. All right. Next, I'm going to pull a card here from the next deck in the deck that I'm creating. And This is called the contrast, and it's what's at the root of the emotion. So it helps us understand more on that as well. And because this was a -1 on here, then we'll take one card from the bottom of the deck. That's interesting that that broke down to a -11, and that's a 1. 1, 1, 1s. All right. Well, I guess we're not going to do that. We're just going to pick this card here, which is a number 2. So as I mentioned, with the panic here, this is the fight in the fight or flight. So whenever we have something that is challenging us and where we're feeling our fears, when we panic, what this is showing is to look at how, not only how you attack others, but how you become defensive. So when you're looking at the situation where you feel you panic and with your parents, just feel how you, those feelings within you. So this is more saying that you normally don't run from it, you more become defensive and you more fight. So you might have had a lot of disagreements and fighting with your parents rather than, being that quiet child who holds everything inside to blow up later. Or this could be that you, the message I'm getting is you might plan your rebellion. You keep things quiet as you gather together to gather forces to attack. And then you choose your time to when you would fight back there. But this is just clarifying for us that what is at the root of the panic is that fight or flight is what is at the root. And we don't want this to all be about what to work on without giving you a little advice. So this one, the tools of light, is what kind of tool can help you in transforming these, in addition to the advice it gave on the bottom here. What else can help you transform these into more peace and love and joy? So again, I'll shuffle this. If I don't get a card, I'll take 2 from the top, since that's a positive number. So I'll take 2 from the top if a card doesn't make itself known here. All right, so we'll take 2 from the top. So that's 1, and this will be number 2. I love that. The power to laugh. And this, it's a great card because what this tells us is no matter what we've been taught, you're supposed to laugh at or not, or how you're supposed to react or respond to a situation, you get to choose, and you can choose to laugh at it. Laughter is one of the superpowers that destroy fear. So if a situation comes up, and you may not want to laugh in someone's face, it's not laughing at someone, it's just taking a joyful spin on it, not taking things so seriously. So, if someone says something to you that normally triggers you, you can be like, what, I don't have to get upset at that. In fact, I'm gonna laugh it off inside and go, okay, whatever, sometimes I even will, in my mind, re-say things in my mind in a funny way. Someone's like, you're a jerk. And inside of my mind, I'm like, you're a jerk, and I just make it a funny thing inside me instead, to where my whole body just chooses, rather than to panic, to laugh. I love too with this card too that the mouth is highlighted in blue here to tell us that the words we use mean a lot for us too. And I call it the power of adjectives. And what that means is that everything just is, but the adjectives we apply to any word is what controls the story that we're applying to what's going on. So the example is like, I had a rough day. Rough, of course, is the adjective. So if we get rid of that adjective and just look at it as I had a day. Yep, you did. You simply had a day. Now, what our power of choice does is I could have chose to have it as being a rough day. I could also have chosen to say I had an exciting day, because it gave me the opportunity to look at, my emotions. Whatever we do, I had a hilarious day. Whatever adjective we apply, that is our power, and that is what helps us convert those things. So hopefully that helps there. In addition, I'm also going to pull a card here from this amazing self-awareness deck here, the Soul Truth. We'll see what additional messages we have here, and I'm just going to kind of move these to the side there. All right, what additional message do we have for those that chose card number 1, please? Okay, if you can make it really obvious for us, please. Oh, that one wanted to come out here, so we'll do this one here. And I'll show you that here before I read that here. Here's the front and here's the back. And it says, if I had a magic wand and could have anything I desired in life, what would I choose? Burn with desire. There is power in your desires. Let them be your fuel today. Your desires are your soul's wings, and it's time to take flight. And today's soul action says, today go inward. Your answers lie within. What do you desire? Choose what makes you happy and do that, right? Choose what makes you happy. So that's a great message there too, especially when it's talking about go inward, because that's where your answers are to doing that. And that's everything I talked about at the beginning of the video too, about during the retrograde for Mercury. That's the time to go do that. And then last thing, I'm going to give you a little, the universe has your back, just to give you a little another supportive message here, just to help you through as you go inward and take a look at what is it that wants to be released, what is coming back to you during this retrograde. All right, and what's the final message for those that chose card number 1, please? Okay, this one here. It says, obstacles are detours in the right direction. So I love that underlying message for this for me is always, everything happens for a reason, that all these events that happened in your life didn't happen to you, they happened for you. And the reason they happen for us is because it reveals and it shows us who we really are. We're these powerful, supernatural, eternal spirit beings made of unconditional love, and to understand who we are, we come here to experience our opposite. And so that's all the fear-based emotions, all the things that are related to fear, all the anger and the sadness and the depression, pretty much all the cards I laid out in the beginning, all those are those dark, uncomfortable emotions is how we perceive them, right? Because we're not used to feeling those, and they're the opposite of who we really are. But by experiencing sadness, we understand and really appreciate even more happiness. If we experience depression, then when we have joyous times, we even more understand what joy is and appreciate it even more. So that's just that, contrast. Like I was talking about in here, the contrast between the black and the white. If this entire card was white, you couldn't even see that there's a design on it. But that when we see some shadows, then we see things more clearly, we understand things more clearly. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, if you want to give me a little like down below, I always appreciate any support. And if you want to get notified of any future videos that I do, if you click the subscribe button and click on the little alarm icon, then you get notified of that as well. But I wish you all the best, and you take care. I love you. All right, if you chose card number 2, then this is the reading for you. And either a lot of people chose this one to look at, or a lot of people didn't want to look at this and avoided this reading. But this is Disgust, which it's so hilarious because when I was creating these cards and I first got the design ideas that were just being downloaded into my head, this was like early 2020. Yeah. And so, Disgust was, it basically is when things go so different than what we expected that we just can't believe that people would, do things in their lives that are just so opposite of what we believe. And that's what comes down. It was funny because voting seemed to be a common thing that came through my mind at the time. And that was even before our, this 2020 challenge that has come around voting in the United States, And what I love about this is on the bottom, it always talks about advice from the Creator and how we can convert these feelings into, peace, love, and joy. And this talks about looking higher, because this shadowed character here is that, is this human being that we're walking around in, this character that we're playing here, because this is not really us. This is not me. This is just the rental car I'm driving around in, experiencing this life. Who we all are is this higher being that's in the blue, which is, that powerful, supernatural, eternal spirit being made of unconditional love. We're little drops from the mighty sea of unconditional love. We're little mini me, little mini creators, right? God made us in his image. We are little mini gods, little mini G's, right? But when we're walking as this little shadowed character here, we have strong opinions on how we think things should be. And when things don't go our way and people choose in ways that are just so opposite of what we think, or they don't choose like in this case, they don't choose our candidate, we get upset with that. In fact, we can get into the upset so much that we feel disgusted by the other person's choice. But the thing is that we aren't really disgusted by the person, we're just disgusted by the action, the choice. And we're actually in fear that, are we wrong? Or what else are they going to try to take from me and disagree with me about? And that's what rattles our cages. But when we look higher and we look beyond these characters that are playing, we see that there's this unconditionally loving actor behind the character in our little movie that's going on, our little drama that's going on. And when we look to that being's intentions, we know that everything it's doing is for us and for the love that exists inside of us, to be exposed, to turn us inward to that love so that we can connect to who we really are, which is, represented by this shebang. We're this powerful being of love, right? And so, if you chose this card, then whether it's voting and everything that went on with elections and everything and all that angst and whatever, or if it's some other thing that people have done that have disgusted you in your life that are coming up during this Mercury retrograde, then the advice the Creator's giving is, take a deep breath, take a step back, even meditate. This isn't a meditative stance here. But look higher, look to the being that's really behind them. Really understand, that situation. What is it teaching me? If I chose this for myself, what did I want to learn about myself through this? Not focusing on how we feel about the others, but turning that inward and understanding about ourselves. All right, next I'm going to pick a card here from, this is another stack in the Oracle deck that I'm working on with the Creator. And this is just helps us understand what is sparking our emotional fire around this here. So if a card doesn't pop out, since this is a minus 23, that 3 plus 2 is 5. So I'll take 5 from the bottom of the deck because it's a minus 5. And that's if a card doesn't make itself known and jump out of here. Real obvious for us. So I'll just shuffle here. Oh, actually, this one looked like it wanted to come out there and is telling me, choose me, choose me. So we will choose this one. Okay, so win-lose game. This fits right into everything we were just talking about with the voting there. How, part of the fear, is that the other person's going to win, and more so that we're going to lose. And what does it mean about me if I lose, right? Because that's what we care about the most is... if we both win, hey, that's fine. I don't feel less about who I am. But if I lose, we're told in this earthly life that means you're a loser, and that means you're less than and not worthy of love. In fact, you need to be rejected, and all the fears that are underneath that. But here on the bottom is the answer that the Creator gives, the way that we can transform all that fear into unconditional love, peace, and joy. And it says, the best defense is not to get offended. And what I love about that is because it challenges our core. There's so much that we're taught in our life of when this happens, this is how you're supposed to feel. And so we're taught by so many different sources outside of us that are constantly, trying to convince us how life should be and how we should behave, that when this happens, you should be offended. And so when we're told that enough, we, out of fear of being rejected, will take that on and go, well, I have to be offended, because if not, people are going to get mad at me for not being offended. People are going to reject me for not being offended. And we fear what's going to happen if we don't get offended, right? So we just go around, and especially these days, I've heard it so many places over the last decade, is we've become a culture, especially, in the United States. I can't really say about other cultures because I don't live in them, but in our culture here in the United States, we become so easily offended by so many things. And it was freeing to stop being offended and to choose to not be offended by things. And when I stopped choosing that, it didn't matter what came my way. It didn't matter what other people did. I just realized it's not personal. I'm like, everyone's a mirror, right? So everything that they're doing, whatever I'm feeling within me by what they're doing, is for me to look inside myself. Feelings are flags that something can be looked at inside of me. If someone else is getting offended by me, I'm just being a mirror, and there's something inside them that they could look at to understand what's going on. That's none of my business. I can't do anything about that. I can only do things about what's happening inside of me, right? All right. Next, I'm going to pull a card here from the third stack in that deck, which is the contrast. And this just helps us understand what's at the root of these emotions here. And again, this is a minus 12, so that'll be 3 from the bottom, unless that card jumps out and makes itself known here. All right. What additional message do you have for us, please? All right, so 3 from the bottom, that would be 1, 2, and this would be 3. Fear of death. Which that makes total sense with, you're going to get stabbed. And when you get to the root of any of our fears, one of the fears is the fear of a painful death. But there's also the fear of what happens after death. And that unknown is such a huge thing for us, because part of wanting to be in control and having things work out the way we want them to is that we know what's going to happen. And we think that we can be in control of so much more than we actually are, right? When you make a list and really think about what can I control externally, outside of me. The list is very small, very, very small. But the one thing that we can control is how we choose to react to whatever is going on. And again, the fear of what happens after death comes down into a lot of how we're raised, whether, it's atheist or an organized religion or something like that. We're scared of what's going to happen afterwards. So one of the things you can do is dig into what is it about death that you fear. And you'll get some answers there. I'm not going to go more into that. They said to go ahead and move on to this, so I'm going to jump into, we're not going to leave it just all this work to do, right? We're going to give you some tools in addition to the suggestions and advice they gave on the bottom. We're going to go ahead and look at the tools of light. And this was a 10, so we'll do one from the top, since it's a positive number, unless a card jumps out. All right, one more time here. All right, so we'll take one from the top. And this is the power to question. So as I was just saying, one of the greatest powers we have is to be able to question our fears and get to the root of what's going on. And an important piece with that is when you go into the investigation, try not to go into it in a judgmental way, because that's just going to have you spiral away into the fears, right? Don't be so serious about it. Go into it with just not, and that anything needs to change, that I have to change anything. If I find out anything, that means I'm going to have to make these big changes in my life. No, just go in it just with an inquiring mind. I just want to understand what it is that I'm fearing about death. What is it that I'm fearing about, the situations? Let me just get to the root of it. I just want to see it and understand it. And the great thing is that when we question our fears and we question our, beliefs around things, like I'm supposed to get upset when this happens. When we start to question, is that really true? Do I have to get upset when things don't turn out the way I want them to? Or do I need to get offended about these things? When we question those, just questioning it, sometimes our mind starts letting things go away, because it knows if we see a lie and it's uncovered it anyway, our brain won't believe it again. We won't believe it again. And so sometimes things just start falling away without even us doing anything. But you never have to change anything. It's just being willing to let me just take a look at it. Let me just bring some things to light within me without any pressure that you need to make any changes on there. All right. So I'm going to move these out of the way here because I do want to give you a couple more cards here. The first one's going to be from this Soul Truth deck. It's a little self-awareness card deck, which is beautiful. So we will pull a card here and see what additional message we have for those that chose card number 2 and bravely selected the number 2, even though it said vote on there. It didn't make you run away, so you're a brave, brave soul. Obviously, you're a warrior because there's a person with a sword here, so you are a very brave person. All right. So we'll see here, and what additional message do we have for those that chose card number 2, please? All right, this one is sticking out here. We're going to take that one. Actually, it looks like there's 2 here, so you're going to get 2 messages. This one is, how can I infuse more self-love and compassion into my daily life? And I'll show you the back here too. And I'll read that one to you here. It says, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. And that's from Buddha. Today's soul action, it says, choose one self-care action to do today so you can set stronger boundaries, meditate and listen to your heart, speak to yourself with compassion, focus on your strength, say no to something that isn't a soul yes, say yes to something you're afraid of, let go of what you cannot control, stay far away from drama and negativity, ask for help and allow it, and write down 3 things that you're grateful for. So I'll hold that up there too, just in case you want to take a screenshot of that. Those are pretty awesome tools to help convert that there. And then the other card here was, when was the last time I couldn't stop laughing or smiling? And then here's the back of this one, which I'll read to you here. Which is amazing because, laughter and smiling is one of the destroyers of fear. It says, go back to a moment when you laughed so hard you almost peed your pants, or did. Feel the laughter grow in your body, your cheeks hurting and your eyes watering. Maybe there was even a snort or two. Laughter is healing. It reminds us to take life less seriously and find the joy in the little things. Note to self, laugh more often. And today's soul action is make somebody laugh today. So isn't that awesome? Instead of attacking and becoming offended, laugh it off and enjoy. Focus all that energy instead of fighting into laughter. I love that. All right, and then your final card is going to be from The Universe Has Your Back, because we can all use an extra message about that. All right, what's the final message for those that chose card number 2, please? All right. This is yours here. And it says, my capacity to tune in to the energy of love gives me the words I need when I'm ready to speak up, the compassion I need when it's time to forgive, and the power I need when I am lost. So that energy of love, I love that. What a great final message to have. So make love, not war, right? Well, I hope this resonated with you and helped you, out with how to approach this for your Mercury retrograde inner journey, if you so choose to do it. And if you did, I definitely appreciate any support, with a little like that helps out my channel, or subscribing to my channel that helps me out. And if you want to get notified of any future readings I do, you can subscribe and click that little alarm icon and you'll get notified as well. So I definitely appreciate your time. Good luck with this Mercury retrograde. It's not as bad as it is made out to be. It's for us, not to us, right? But I love you, and you take care. All right, if you chose reading number 3 for card number 3, then this is the reading for you. And this is the disappointment card. And what I love about this card is that it's about controlling the weather, right? I mean, disappointment is, we're taught there's a forecast out there, or we have an expectation of how things should be. Like, I had an outdoor wedding and I didn't want it to rain, but it rained. How disappointing. I wanted it to rain to water my grass and it didn't, like they said it was going to. How disappointing. But of course, disappointments go out through all the areas of our life, because we're all taught that there's certain things that are supposed to happen at a certain time, by a certain time, a certain way. And when it doesn't, then we end up with that disappointment. And I always say expectations equal disappointment. And I love the advice that the creator gives on the bottom here with a little umbrella. It says, let go. So if you chose this card, for this Mercury retrograde period, the things that are coming up for you are the things on where either you felt disappointed, of course, or where you felt you were a disappointment to someone else. And when you look into that, you can understand that if you feel other people disappointed you, I always used to say, if I came up to you and said, I expect you to give me $2,000. And you're like, who are you? I don't even know you. And like, well, I expect you to give me $2,000 and you don't do that. Whose fault is it that I'm disappointed? Yours for not doing what I'm expecting, or me for inflicting you with my expectations? Well, the answer is that my emotions are my business. My expectations are my business. And no one else can live up to my long list of expectations that I've developed over, all these decades. Those are all for me to look at. And those emotions that come up, those disappointment emotions that flood in, those are a flag for me to go, what was I expecting and why was I expecting it? And do I really need to expect that? And that letting go message on there is about letting go of expectations, because what's wonderful is that if you look at life, like you have zero expectations, right? And I'm going to use a relationship as an example. So when someone comes in and you have zero expectations and they're doing this up here, you're like, wow, look at all that distance, and you think, wow, what an amazing person. I want to be with them. And then let's say you start to date, right? Your expectations go up a little bit on what you expect when you're dating, and then you're exclusively dating. And then when you get engaged, and then what if when you get married, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? All those expectations start to change. Now they are staying the same person they were, but our expectations changed. So suddenly they're not that amazing person we thought they were, even though they never changed. So see how expectations influence our lives, and how things just change that way. Another example is if I brought you in one day, I decided to bring you donuts and coffee because I was stopping and I got some, so I brought you one too. You're like, okay, maybe in the back of your mind there's a tiny little expectation that I might do it the next day. Maybe not. So the next day happens, I don't do it. You're not really big, not big disappointment. You just, okay, it didn't happen. But let's say the second day I brought you coffee and donut again. The amount of expectations has exponentially increased for day 3. Day 3, I don't bring it. Wow. Why didn't they not bring it the third day? What's wrong with me? Did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? It's just like all that kind of stuff happens. But when we start to question and let go our expectations, we live a much more peaceful, loving, and joyful life. Guaranteed. All right. Next, I'm going to pull a card here from the second stack in this Oracle deck that I'm co-creating with the creator. And since that's a minus 22 on the bottom, 2 plus 2 is 4, and it's a minus 4. So if a card doesn't jump out of here on its own, then I'll take 4 from the bottom of the deck. All right. What additional message do we have for those that chose card number 3, please? All right, I didn't get any there, so we'll take 4 from the bottom. That's 1, 2, 3, and this will be number 4. And we've got Unforgiven. And what I love about this card is that this is represented, it's like, what cage have you put others in? What cage have you put yourself in? And it all has to do with these expectations. This is a perfect card to go along with that, because it says, let the wrath go. And so this clarification for this card, it's basically saying that, when someone disappoints us, when someone doesn't meet up to our expectations and our conditional love laws, we basically had them in a cage and they didn't live up to what we wanted them to do. Letting the wrath go means it's like letting the punishment go. When in your little court in your mind, where you're the judge and that person is on trial and you've determined them guilty, it's getting to that place where you can go, you know what? Like I was talking about earlier, it's not their fault that they didn't live up to what I wanted them to do. I'm letting the wrath go. I'm letting the punishment go. I'm forgiving them. On the flip side, if you were the one that felt you disappointed someone else and you feel like you're unforgiven and you're being held in this cage, the door is open and you can leave that cage, because one of the biggest eye-opening awarenesses for my life was when I realized that I'm only responsible for my own emotions and my own choices. Everyone else is making their own individual decisions and choices and choosing the emotions that they want to have. Someone could as easily choose to be happy about something as they can choose to be sad about something. Yeah, sometimes it's an easier decision. Sometimes it's a more challenging decision because of how we're raised so strongly about when that happens, you're supposed to be sad. But it's so powerful when even in those strong situations, you convert it to being like, you know what? I'm going to laugh at that. You know, I've got a flat tire. I'm supposed to be pissed. I'm supposed to get angry and throw things around and tell everyone about it. How, oh, what a bad day I had. My tire's flat. Versus celebrating, you know, almost looking insane that you're laughing that you have a flat tire, but believing that everything happens for me, you know. Maybe I'm delayed from getting in a fatal accident. Maybe I'm going to avoid getting a speeding ticket. Maybe I'm delayed. I'm going to walk into work, you know, or walk into a store at the same time and bump into someone I wouldn't have had I got there, you know, without having that delay. We don't know. But we can trust that the universe is kind and that things are unfolding for us. And we can let all that go and not be worried about it, you know? All right. And then I'm going to pull a card here from the stack number 3, which talks about what's at the root of our emotions. And this was a -6. So if no card pops out, I'll take 6 from the bottom of this deck once I finish shuffling. So it's like, what additional message do we have for those that chose card number 3? All right, that's too many there. Can we just have one, please? All right, and already forgot. Okay, that's a -6, so we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this is You Hurt Me, which is such the disappointment. This is so perfect. See the little rain, the little tear there? And what this card really represents is part of the 3-part manipulation process. And it's what humankind has developed to manipulate others to do what we want them to do. And you might recognize how this has been done to you, or shock, when I found out how I was doing it to others. So the first step is this one here, which is, I'm sad, I'm disappointed in you because of what you didn't do or what you did. And I'm sad, and you need to change and be who I want you to be. If that doesn't work, the stage 2 is we become a bully, we become angry, we become aggressive, and we're like, I can't believe you're not doing it. And then step 3 is rejecting. So the thing that most humans fear is being rejected. So that ultimately is the giving them the cold shoulder, hanging up on them, not answering their texts, or, you know, kind of ghosting them, and I'm not going to answer you then. You know, whatever it might be. And when the rejection, if that doesn't work, then they'll come back to here and go, I can't believe you never called me back. And, you know, even though I didn't call you, you should have called me and pursued me. It'll keep repeating through. So does that sound familiar to you? All right. And then, of course, we're not going to be just focusing on all the things of what's at the root here. Let's get, besides these 2 tools that it gave down here about letting go and letting the wrath go, we'll look at some tools of light here too. And again, this was a 5 on the bottom here. So if a card doesn't pop out, I'll take 5 from the top, since that's a positive number now. All right, what's the final? Well, actually, that's not the final message. We have a couple more cards to pull, but what additional message do you have for those that chose card number 3? All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and this will be number 5. Oops. The power to choose. So like I was saying, it's just reiterating everything I just said about you have a choice to choose to be disappointed or to not be disappointed, to be happy. We have our choice. That's our superpower. People call it free will, power of choice. So no matter what comes into our life, what weather comes, I have a choice just to be like, whatever weather is happening is perfect weather, or am I going to have some sort of story and emotion behind it and not be happy about it? There's nothing wrong with either choice. We just get to experience it. We come here to experience all the uncomfortable emotions of fear and disappointment and sadness and all that. So when we experience it, we're experiencing it. And that's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's powerful to know that when I'm tired of feeling that way and I want to feel something different, I can. And it's within my power to choose it. All right, I'm just going to move these to the side here because I want to pull just a few more cards here for you. I'm going to pull a card here from the Soul Truth deck here. Let's see what additional message we have. All right. What additional message do you have for those that chose card number 3, please? If we can make it really obvious for us, because we like those clear, obvious messages. All right, I really feel this one is sticking out here. That one says, where am I with my health goals? Where do I want to be? Why am I not there? What will it take for me to feel well? And then I'll show you this and then I'll read it here. And it says, if my body could talk, it would say, would it say it's disappointed in you? Is that what you're worried about? And today's soul action says, feed your body what it needs to feel nourished, appreciated, and loved. Make some new, exciting goals to take your health to the next level. And I'm really hearing too, this is not just about your body health. It's about your mental health, about your spiritual health, just your overall well-being in your body, in your soul, and your being. So find ways to feed your body, feed your being what it needs to feel nourished, appreciated, and loved. So do those things for yourself. I always say, no one can treat you better than how you treat yourself, right? And no one knows how to treat you better than yourself because you know exactly what you want. So when you expect all those things from other people and you don't get it from them, find it in you. I was just reminded of this section in the book, The Path to Love by Deepak Chopra, because it asked, it kind of sets you up. It asks, what do you search for in a mate? And of course, my answer was, I wanted someone who, respected me because I felt disrespected when I was cheated on several times and how people talk to me. And I want someone who respects me. And then of course, the little reveal is that on the next paragraph, it says, well, what you want in someone else, you need to find in yourself. And you're like, oh, that book almost went flying across the room for sure. But I realized after I denied, like, wait, I respect myself. After I realized, well, I guess I don't respect myself if I give up my friends and my life for my partner each time. And I would totally lose who I was and become very small, trying to be who I thought the other person wanted me to be. That's not respecting me. That's disrespecting me. So, just an additional message there for you. And your last card for card number 3 is going to be from this, The Universe Has Your Back. And I'll give you one final message here. final card for those that chose number 3, please. Oh, looks like you get 2. You get a choice, right? It says, I create mindful moments throughout the day, reminding myself that I am love and miracles are natural. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. I recognize that I have chosen fear and I choose again. I choose love. Perfect. Perfect card. Well, I hope this brought a little bit of joy for you coming into this Mercury retrograde. If this did resonate with you, I always appreciate any likes that you give there. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, that helps me out as well. And if you click the little alarm icon when you do that, you also get notified of any future videos that I do. So I definitely appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I appreciate you, and I love you. You take care. All right, if you chose card number 4, then this is the reading for you, and you chose the Betrayal card. Stabbed in the back, dun dun dun. And of course, betrayal is something that has visited so many of us. I know I've went through it several times myself when I believed I could be betrayed. And of course, so this card is looking at a variety of ways. I mean, of course, you know, being cheated on, or even friends talking behind your back, other people betraying you, whether it's family, co-workers, just feeling let down. You know, you really thought that these were people who were supporting you, that had your back, but instead they had your back with a knife instead. And you just feel that let down, and you just feel that deep betrayal that just really, you almost feel like it breaks your heart, right? And what I love on the bottom of the card here, the creator shows us a way that we can convert those feelings of betrayal into peace, love, and joy, and that is the mirror. Now, in several, I had 3 of my relationships, I was had where my partners cheated on me and betrayed me, right? And the mirror, the last thing I wanted to hear was look in the mirror, because what they were doing was showing you how you felt about yourself. And we don't want to hear that in the beginning, right? We're like, what? You mean with them not being able to live up to, what they said they were going to do? That has to do with me, and but through time, time heals, and when you come to a place of not hating anymore, and you've gone through all the, those feelings and work through your emotions, I was able to look back, and then I understood that yes, all of the individuals I was in a relationship with, they all were my teachers. They all showed me how I felt about myself until I saw it. And I kept on, and that's why we choose the same type of individuals too that come into our lives, right? Because they're all telling us the same thing. And when I realized, was that, I didn't feel very high of myself. No one can love me more than I love myself. And they were loving me how much I loved myself. And through, I went through some counseling, did a lot of self-help books and a lot of internal searching. And then we get to that point and we realize that, one, their actions don't mean anything about me, about my worth. But how I felt about the situation had nothing to do with them. It's how I felt about myself. So, I'm not responsible for their actions. I'm only responsible about how I allow it to mean about me. And so that's what this betrayal isn't about, looking in the mirror. It's just to understand that other people's actions reflect how they feel about themselves, and how I feel about their actions tell me how I feel about myself. Okay, and next I'm going to pull a card here from the second stack in this Oracle deck. And since this was a minus 18, 1 plus 8 is 9, and since it's a minus, that'll be a minus 9. So if a card doesn't make itself known here, then I'll pick 9 cards from the, I'll pick the 9th card from the bottom of the deck since it's a negative number. All right, and what additional message do you have for those that chose the 4th card, please? All right, so we're going to do some counting. So we got minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this will be number 9. All right, and this is the unknown. Woo! And then, of course, on the bottom here, it says, do you trust me? Let go. So with this card, the unknown, basically it's about the fear of the unknown. And the reason why we fear the unknown is because we have this long list of things of what we think are supposed to happen for us to be lovable, right? This being one of them here. But we have this long list of how people are supposed to treat us, how we're supposed to treat others, how things are supposed to unfold, who's supposed to be in our life, what's supposed to be in our life, what situations are supposed to be in my life, what things I'm supposed to own, this long list. We hate the unknown because we fear being rejected if that long list of things isn't fulfilled, right? So if we don't know an outcome, then we fear the outcome's not going to match what we need. And we fear basically failure. We fear being rejected for that failure. That's the penalty for our failure. And so the unknown, when we feel things are out of our control and I can't handle it, and I can't make sure herding all these cats, trying to make them all sit still, an impossible task. And we fear that we're going to get rejected by that, right? But I love on the bottom there, it says, the Creator asks, do you trust me? Then let go of all those expectations. Let go of all those outcomes. Just allow yourself to flow through life, enjoy this moment. Don't worry about all the future unknown moments. You're going to get to those. And, look at all those moments you worried about in the past that didn't come to fruition. Yeah, I used to say, well, it's because I worried about it and I made sure it didn't happen. But there's so much outside of our control, right? There's so much that we think, oh, I made that happen. And you're like, yeah. When we're back on the other side watching the whole movie of our life and we look back and they're like, look all the stuff that we kept from hitting you that you had no control over. And I'm like, oh, okay. I get it now. All right. And since that was a minus 11, that would be 1 plus 1 is 2, so that'd be a minus 2. So if a card doesn't pop out of this deck, I'll take 2 from the bottom. This one's going to be the 3rd stack, which is the contrast, what tells us more about what is at the root of these emotions here. What is doing that. So we'll see what we have here. What additional message do we have for those that chose card number 4, please? All right. And that was minus 2. That'd be 1 and 2. Oh, I love this. I love this. This is the Spice Cake mantra. And I will recite it to you, which says, and you can replace spice cake with whatever lovely dessert or num thing that you like. But for this is, I am my own spice cake. The frosting on top of the spice cake is the love of my friends and family, that love, that unconditional love that they have for me. And then the cherry on top, the frosting on top of the spice cake are my accomplishments in life. And then the whipped topping on top of the cherry, on top of the frosting, on top of the spice cake are my intimate relationships. those deep, relationships. If for some reason I don't have the whipped topping and I don't have the cherry and I don't have the frosting, and that would mean that all the people that, all my friends and family that love me unconditionally on the planet are no longer here, because that's the only time they would ever stop loving me. Even if I didn't have all of those other things, I would still be one awesome frickin' spice cake. And what that does is, this message basically is just a reinforcement to tell us that all those external things aren't stable. They aren't necessary, and they all turn us back inward to our inner spice cake. Because people change or pass away, situations never stay the same, and things deteriorate, they break, or they're stolen. So all those external things are unstable. So when we define ourselves by those external things, then we feel unstable. But when we go to the inner spice cake, which is unconditional love, that's why it's made of all these hearts, that's the unconditional love of the creator of all things. When we return to that inner unconditional love and we define ourselves by that, that is the only stable thing, because that unconditional love is forever. There's no conditions on it. All these other things are conditional because it's on this conditional plane of existence. So when we turn inward, that's where we get stable. All right. And then lastly, I'm going to pull a card. Well, not lastly, but I'm going to pull a card here from the Tools of Light. And that, in addition to these two pieces of advice here, and this card actually was too, this will be a tool that'll help convert, these emotions into unconditional love and peace and joy. And since that was a 0, we're just going to let and see what card flies out of here for us, because we have no guidance on which card it was. Or maybe that's it. You don't get a 4th one. No, we're going to pull one. One will fly out here in a sec, I'm sure of it. Oh, yep, this one wanted to come out. And this is the power of no, which I love this because it's one of the things that 2-year-olds really teach us really well is no. They're not afraid to say no, but they're convinced later through pain and punishment not to say no to people in authority. And it's something that we lose, but something that we can gain back later. And it's not being, like being a douche about saying no to people, like, saying it like a 2-year-old. No, I don't want to do that. It's being able to say, oh, no, thank you. I'm just going to stay in tonight and have some alone time. Or, no, I'm not really interested in that movie, but, I'd be happy to go to another one next time. Is there another movie you'd want to see? Being able to choose you and choosing what you would like as well. And yeah, there's give and take always. Sometimes we're like, hey, yeah, I'll go to that movie. And then, even though I don't like horror movies, but do you like sci-fi? Well, not really. Well, would you be willing to go to this other movie, next week? Yeah. Sometimes there's give and take. We've all been in one-sided situations where we're always the one that's giving in, either because the other person never will give in, or because we fear not giving it. We fear that we'll get rejected and punished like we did before as a child for saying no. So this is a great power to really get into and to understand and to really realize that, again, you get to choose for you. And if someone tells you no, how you choose to accept that no is totally up to you. It has nothing to do with them, right? Whatever their intentions are, you don't know. All you know is the emotions that happen inside you when someone tells you no are yours. And whatever emotions that person has inside them when you tell them no is theirs. And yeah, like I said, we don't have to be a douche about it. That makes it harder for someone to accept a no than if we were nice about it, right? So we can do that. We can give that because we're loving beings. We're willing to do that. But it doesn't matter how you do it, they could still take it horribly if they choose to. Or they could choose to do it wonderfully and be happy about it and let it be not affected by it, not impacted by it. So that's what I love about the power of no. All right, and I'm going to put these over here just to give me a little more space because I do want to pull a couple more cards. One is going to be here, whoops, from this Soul Truth deck here. So let's see what additional message we have. All right, what additional message do we have for those that chose card number 4, please? There we go. Oh, this is awesome. This is actually the card that comes with it, like the introduction card. But I leave it in there because there's a wonderful message that she put in here, and I felt that when it pops up, I feel it's for you. So it says, "Dear soulful you, I see you. I see your beauty and your pain, your joy and your shame. I see the holy truth that your soul is here to bring to the world. What if you were to seek truth over acceptance of others? What if you were to seek love over shame? We have this power within us. It is in the question we ask ourselves daily that cause us to act the way we do. The better the questions, the better the results. Awareness brings light. My goal is for you to feel safe enough to explore all sides of yourself and release all judgment through this daily awareness card deck. Only grace lives here. You are not broken. You are whole and authentic. And there is a universal ache for more of your authenticity. Your soul knows. If you are brave enough and open to your soul's truth, you will shine a spotlight on all your shadows, restoring what was once lost. Process, your soul will guide you to live out your wildest dreams. You are worthy of them all. Your truth, your story, and your message matter. The beauty within me sees the beauty within you. With all my light and love, Brienne. Wow, isn't that just an amazing? Now you see why I leave it in there. It's just beautiful. And I do put links for all these cards that I use down in the description box below. So if you really want that, then definitely you have the link to get it if you feel so led to. And then lastly, I'm going to pull a card here from The Universe Has Your Back for your final message. We can all use that message that the universe has our back, because it surely does. The Creator surely does. All right, what's the final message for those that chose card number 4, please? Here we go. And that says, when I focus on my inner light, I see the world through the lens of love. And I love that, because that was talking about people seeing your inner light as well in there. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I hope this brought a little bit of love, a little bit of peace, a little bit of joy for you as you enter this Mercury retrograde. And, if this did resonate with you, I always appreciate any support. Give me a little like down below. I definitely appreciate that. You can also, if you subscribe to my channel, that helps me out. And if you click the little alarm icon, you get notified of when I send out my next video. So it's really cool. But I do wish you all the love, all the joy, all the peace that you can handle. And if you hold on one sec here, I'm going to give some of those hints from Annie on how you can make the most of your Mercury retrograde as well. and give you some dates on when the next retrogrades are happening, to give you a little heads up. So I do wish you all the best, and I love you. You take care. All right, and as promised, I'm looking at Annie's book here just to share some ways that we can, use the energy of the retrograde for our benefit. She talks about keeping plans flexible, commitments to a minimum, schedules light, and relaxing with no agendas. So more going with the flow, and like I mentioned at the beginning, not pushing things, but just kind of focusing on just taking small steps and going with the flow. She talks about indulging in hobbies and fun. So this is a great opportunity to kind of relax too, and just focus on, charging our internal battery, doing those things that are fun, with, no deadlines, no stakes. There's not, a goal to finish them, but just enjoying your hobbies and having fun. And if you feel like working, you're like, I don't want to be wasting my time, no fun. Then you could look at revising things, like all the words, reworking, redoing, re-editing, doing those types of things you've already pushed out into the world, going back. And if you're wanting to, like for me, I'm going to work on refreshing my website. It's already out there, but I want to refresh it and kind of clean it up and make sure, everything's current on it and things like that. She also talks about reconnecting, and we'll find ourselves wanting to reconnect with, people from our past. And we might also, out of the blue, be hearing from people from, as she says in here, blasts from the past. It's a common time during those Mercury retrogrades to get those kind of communications as well. And it's a great time to do inner work. And like I mentioned, I just finished doing some pick a card readings, which was the focus of what kind of inner work is calling our name. What are those unresolved things that are, whispering our name, saying, is it time to work with me? I'd like you to kind of work through me. And so, we can do that as well. And there's just several pages of that in here. So I can't recommend her book enough. And as I mentioned, I have this linked in the description box below if you want to take a look at it as well. But I hope this really gave you some hope for the Mercury retrograde period, and it doesn't freak you out as much. If you did enjoy this video, I just really always, thank you for any likes that you give here. I definitely appreciate the support, as well as if you click the subscribe button. That helps out my channel, helps it appear under other, people's recommended videos to watch, so it gets the messages out there, and everyone can use a little more zen and calmness, right? But I definitely appreciate it. Everything I do just to help us remember who we really are, which is powerful, supernatural, eternal spirit beings made of unconditional love, and remember our deep connection we have with our Creator of all things. So I do wish you all the best, and I love you. You take care. Oh, and I almost forgot. Wait. I'm going to put up the dates of the Mercury retrogrades for 2021 right here. And I'm also going to post this as a separate social media post, both on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, with the links to all those are down in the description box below as well. So if you want to, save that off onto your phone or print it off, you can have the actual image of that there. I'll put that out there too. So you take care.